The mountains are calling, and I must go. I'm heading to the same place I went last spring, except I don't plan to continue moving around. Instead, I will pick a site and set up a long-term shelter. I have blazed a trail to the area. I plan to stay. A trail I built last spring. Times are different. I now carry 65 pounds, much of which is camera equipment and extra food. Not to mention, it is now winter, and I don't know it yet, but gale force winds are a few days away. I have already been hiking most of the day, and I've walked about 8 miles with a 4,000 foot elevation gain. Luckily for me, part of this journey had social trails to aid me to my destination. As usual, I never get as far as I'd like, and my body and speed succumb to the weight and rough terrain. I was planning on making it to my destination one day, but as fate would have it, I decided it would be wise, with dark quickly approaching, to stay the night at the shelter I found last time on the way to my destination. This is where the journey picks up, where I have just finished setting up camp and am just ironing out the finer details.
Well, I made it up pretty high. Definitely took half a day, and the sun goes down around 4, so it's getting close to that. So lucky for me, I have a shelter that someone built a long time ago, already pre-made, with a fireplace, place to sit. I got my sleeping system and tarp up. Basically now all I'm doing is eating. I brought some granola Mountain House. It's really sweet, which is good. Has a lot of carbs in it. And then I brought this vegetable stew, and then I brought like chili mac. And I want to do mainly exploring, but if I run out of food and want to stay here longer, I also brought the pellet rifle for small game. So I'll spend the night here. Tomorrow, pack up, continue moving forward, and get to the location I want. I thought about going today, but I was already tired and sore. And the last thing I want to do is try to create like a whole shelter system, find a spot, and get ready for the night. So this way, I have everything set up. It's kind of like a halfway point.
Day 2. I pack up my gear and begin my trek further into the wilderness. I follow a very old prospector's trail, marked with old blazes on trees. I start noticing something else along the old trail that I had not on my previous journeys to this area. There are some peculiar tree breaks that don't look natural, but also far too large for a person to do. I am intrigued, and am still unsure how it was done. Perhaps a bear.
Well, here's another one. Well, I think I made it to my spot, or at least the initial spot. Tomorrow I'll look around and see if there's a better area. But for now, this area gets plenty of sunlight, and I'm close enough where I just have to go over those cliffs to see the city and get signal in case of emergencies. I set up my camp, got the fire going, ate, made a little bedding for myself so it's softer when I sleep. Tomorrow I'll probably continue on the same thing. I'm gonna put a firewall behind this fire so I can get more heat over here, and also as a wind blocker. And we're just making more cozy. It's just starting. Just starting. And then after tomorrow, probably the next day, day 4, then I'll start doing some exploring once this is all set up and I've given my body a day to heal. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Well, here I am on day 3 of exploration, and there really hasn't been much exploration yet because we're just setting up camp, and the more effective campsite we have that we're going to stay here for a longer period of time, the better suited we'll be for exploring, which is basically you set up a main site like this. This one's underway, and then you just recon the area by doing hikes and light gear. So right now I'm just getting breakfast ready, and one of the things to remember is that if I just came out here with no food and I plan to just survive with what I hunt, that would take a tremendous amount of time away from building the shelter and exploring. So what I did is I brought a ton of food, and I brought the mountain house, just like a big container like this that I can use afterwards for water storage or even cooking in. But if it comes to that, if it comes to the point where I've run out of food and want to stay here longer, I brought my pellet gun, and I'm pretty sure I could get rabbit and squirrel here and live off of that. But remember, that's going to take a lot of time away from my objective, which isn't survival, but exploring. Even though there are a lot of pieces of survival that come into exploring. In fact, the very foundations of exploring depends on survival. Because if you can't survive, you're not exploring. You want to pick spots that get a lot of sunlight, especially during winter, because that's going to help you a lot just to get up in the morning and just keep your spot warmer and drier. Another important piece, if you can find it, obviously most of these are just ideals, is find a place that has a lot of good wind cover and it gets a lot of sunlight. Like right here, I was just lucky. I did a little recon when I first got here in this area, and I'm between 2 cliffs on both sides, and I get the sunlight most of the day in this area, and that's why there's barely any snow around, which is pretty awesome. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to build a firewall, a big one like this, like at an angle it'd be, and over here there's a cool breeze that keeps coming, so I want to find a way to stop that and slow that down at the very most. And today is just improving the shelter. If I get around to it, I want to try to build like a little raised bed. Again, that's secondary, but I did make this nice, and I did put like a lot of ergonomic design in my padding that was actually pretty comfortable last night.
What I found most surprising was I brought my Vibram 5 fingers along, obviously, with my mountaineering boots. That the mountaineering boots got me here, and this is what I've been using around. And what's really cool is that as long as I keep my body temperature like warm, like comfortable, my feet aren't bothered. And I've been trudging through snow, you know, going up like in windy areas, and I've been good. Now, the same token, as soon as I get cold, my feet start to get really cold. So it's a double-edged sword, and if you're going to try something like that, be careful, because the last thing you want is to get frostbite in the middle of winter. Like, I have to be cautious if I go too far and it starts getting too cold, and like my feet start feeling it, I could potentially get frostbite. So I'm still testing it out. Luckily, everywhere I need to go isn't too far from here, so I get to, you know, see how it works in more long term. Sweet. That's a lot better than I would have expected. Would you look at that? This is going to make wonderful, easy to build shingles for the sides, especially right up here where air keeps coming in. I should be able to layer these down. Its potential is enormous. So what I'm going to do is just take all this out. This is all fat wood. Like this is going to be awesome. I'm going to keep this. I'm going to store this. This can serve as tinder for a long time. So what I'm going to do is, after I take all this out, I'm going to use these as almost as shingles on the side of my shelter, so that I can block the wind, because that's where the wind's coming from at night. Look at this wonderfully natural formation right here. Blocks against the wind, and it's flat. Nice. Okay. This is weird. I can't explain this one. It's been easy to explain a lot of things away so far. But this... this is weird. I'm literally in the middle of nowhere. I don't know if this happened naturally or someone came over here and destroyed it. But this was a teepee. Yeah, someone made a teepee here. Looks like it's gone now. Whether it was the Forest Service or natural cause. We're encountering an issue. We're gonna call it critical failure with this new storm coming in. The snowstorm. The wind is now coming from this way and then this way. This is just a giant sail. But I've already invested, so I'm hoping that after everything like settles in a few hours, I can reset my anchor points and sleep. Grab it. Well, it's been several hours now. I think 3 hours of this with my tarp continuing to get destroyed. But I've put in some new, stronger systems that I'm hoping will do better. Oh, just hitting branches. I don't know how long it's gonna take the wind to stop, and I put in this rope here that's holding this. I had these down in there, but it still didn't work. So I'm just gonna leave them out. And so when it blows, at least it'll open up vents with just the string there. I mean, I honestly don't know how well like this system's gonna work. My main concern is that I'm able to just fall asleep. Well, it's still like super windy. I got the tarp to stay put for the most part, as long as none of those deadfalls in the back snap and kill me in my sleep. I'm gonna be sleeping with just my gear on in my sleeping bag, just in case I have to wake up in the middle of the night. I'll be ready. But yeah, I'm just hoping now that there's nothing breaks and falls on the tarp and on my lean-to. Let's see if we can get some sleep. It's super noisy. All right, let's see what's up. Well, it's a lot colder today. I'm up on the cliff line that looks over Colorado Springs. The wind was super fierce. I couldn't go to bed till super late because I kept feeling it was going to be knocked over, or a tree was going to fall on me. And now all this fog, or cloud, this cloud rolled in, I'm sure from the city. It looks like giant cloud. It's snowing a little bit up here, but I suspect this cloud is rolling downhill into the plains below. And they're the ones getting the most snow. So it's snowing a little bit up top of this cliff here. It is really cold. But you shouldn't expect anything less way up here. I'm hoping what's happened in the past is that these clouds will roll down and it'll get sunny up here. It looks pretty thick right now, but the sun's still breaking, even though you can't see it. So down here, about 5,000 feet below me, is the city, Colorado Springs in the plains. And as you can see, there's not much to see. We're gonna see later in the day if it gets better or if it stays this way. I want to hike up Cameron's Cone, but I don't know if there's much of a point if I can't really see around as I'm doing it. So if it clears up in the next few hours, I'll go up. If not, I'll consider going back down, just eat a bunch of food, give me a bunch of energy. But yeah, definitely cold and humid. We'll see how this day pans out. All right, well, we're all packed up, and last thing to do is put the fire out, and we're gonna start heading down. It's gonna be a tough climb down, but tonight we shower. I would say we feast on food, but I've been eating pretty well up here. So if anyone comes across this, shelter, just improve upon it. It took a lot of work to get it to where it was, and it's just the start. It's in a nice but hard to access location, but people do come up here, especially for prospecting. So if you're into it, take advantage of it. I left a barrel of my Mountain House beef stew. There's no more beef stew in there anymore, but there is a bunch of fat wood to start a fire if you need it. So, and then if all else fails, there's a ton of fat wood right there. I think it's important to come here and make fires. I know that sounds ironic, but the more deadfall you use and put to constructive use or burn, the better you're managing a forest. Yeah, people that go camping that use fires are helping manage a forest and mitigating fire threat. So in this whole area, I burned a lot of wood. I know you can. It still probably looks like there's a bunch of stuff still lying around, but there's much less in my radius. So the more you burn responsibly, the safer you make our forests. Anyway, I'm gonna head down. Till next time. Well, I was way up there. Up there, right here, those are the cliffs I kept looking out over. It's been a tough trek down. Luckily there's like an old trail here. And now I'm on one of these fingers. See, there's a finger there. I'm on one here. And we have those houses down there, which is Crystal Park. But we still have a much further way to go. Like from Crystal Park, it's still probably 1,000 or more feet down. But at least from there, it'll be like nice, leisurely trails for the most part. So here we are.